What's up, everyone? It's Gavin or Tweek.
It's Marcus or Pink. What's good? What's good? What's good?
What up? What up? It's Charles or Chuck, and today we have a special guest joining us. We got Ryan. How you doing, man?
What's going on, guys? My bad. I wasn't queued up.
It's all G. It's all
good.
G.
All good.
So, Ryan, you have a product called the Stryker, which is a dock, right? I'm very interested to hear about what you have to say to the dock. I've been following the dock for some time now. I know you've been working on it for quite a bit. So, why don't you tell us more about the Stryker?
Yeah, so I've got it right here.
Ooh, in the flesh.
You guys may recognize that blue slide from the old SNES, and of course now I can't make it work properly. So this thing came about because we did a Super Smash Brothers tournament over the summer. It was like a $10,000 just random tournament, kind of for fun. And I was getting super frustrated at the Nintendo Switch dock because all of the stuff that I kept having to provide for like 22 setups, it was driving me crazy. So I started asking around. I'm like, there's got to be a dock. You're telling me Nintendo took the ports away and didn't sell that as an accessory? And of course, it was like the same exact adapter as the old Wii U one for which version of Smash was that? I can't. It wasn't.
It was just Smash Wii U.
Smash Wii U, yeah. And I hated that adapter. So I took a bunch of stuff apart because I own a video game store, and I kind of like crammed it all together in one like 3D printed housing. It worked okay. I made it work with a little mobile app that tied into Start GG. It was super complex, and no one liked it. So we kind of threw it all out and started over again. Tapped the guys over at AITX, got their engineering team involved, paid a pretty penny for that, and this was the result. So a lot of people have asked, I don't know if you guys can see it, there is a channel there that handles the airflow for the Switch. Again, 4 GameCube ports, 2 USB, and then additional USB in the back and 3 HDMI. One quick thing to note on this, they are USB 3.0. The Switch can only support 2.0, but we were worried about a Switch Pro, so it's kind of future-proofed.
Nice. And 3 HDMI is very innovative as well, so you can just split them into multiple monitors.
Yeah, you can do 2 monitors in a stream, 3 monitors. They are for 60 hertz. Anything higher would have kind of been overkill. Again, I use them at our video game store all the time. We have a bunch of kids that like to do tournaments, so we have these 2 like 55s up in the front that's tied to a streaming machine just for that. So this was kind of a passion project. We didn't even really think the community was gonna kind of be this excited about it. I more built it for me and my tournaments, and then I kept getting different TOs reaching out and going, "Please sell us this. Like that, this will really help out." So from that came something called Verified TO. What we're doing with that is if you reach out to us and say, "Hey, these are the past tournaments we've done," we'll give you a discount for buying in bulk. We're still working on the pricing on that. One of the other things that you'll get is you guys may have seen it with like the old AITX esports logo with like an acrylic plate. We're going to do acrylic plates for teams, again, for TOs. Branding's important. Obviously, I have an esports background. That industry is changing heavily. You can't sell everybody T-shirts, so at some point you got to come up with a new product.
Right.
And we're kind of hoping it's this.
More T-shirts and sweaters. Everyone can only have so much, right? So, yeah, I think this is an amazing product, especially for TOs. I mean, the HDMI splitter built right in is amazing. I used to do a bit of TOing back in the 2GG days, so I definitely understand all the stress that comes with dealing with having multiple pieces of equipment, having to kind of clutter them all together. This just feels like an all-in-one kind of device for the Switch.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's kind of what we were going for. You can use Nintendo's little USB-C charger on it. If you do that, the front USBs don't give you charging. The brick's just not powerful enough for that. But if we sell a certain number of them that will be in the pre-order announcement, we're just going to include a better charging brick in the box. This Switch has been made with a voltage regulator so that it'll match Nintendo's non-standard power. So you don't have to worry about your Switch bricking. And then again, the biggest thing for us was just trying to make it as easy as possible for everybody.
Yeah,
this is fantastic. This is so interesting.
Yeah, so where can, if anyone's interested in this, where can they contact you? Or, I know at Gaming Edge LLC is the Twitter account. If you guys want to go ahead and follow that for any updates, but anything else, Ryan, if anyone wants to keep up or anything like
So gamingedge.gg is our website. You can sign up for pre-order notifications there. Pre-orders should be going live this weekend. I'm targeting Friday. It really just depends on what comes back. And again, we built this for the community and for TOs. We want to hear your feedback. If there's anything you guys see that you're concerned about, let us know. We try to be pretty active on Twitter about addressing it. And if it's something that you want to see in a later revision, just let us know.
Yeah, and make sure you guys let us know in the comments below if you guys think this product is interesting, and make sure to check out all the socials. But Ryan, thanks so much for coming on the show and letting us know about your product, man.
Yeah, man. Seriously, thank you for having me.
All right, guys, we got one more guest to bring on, but before we get into that, I just want to shout out our Patreon. If you guys love our content, make sure to check out our Patreon. We do bonus episodes, but we're actually transitioning next month into doing bonus segments. It's going to be the same amount of content, but essentially spread out week to week. So just going to be better all workflow and more content for you guys overall. But our special guest for today is our good friend and is a massive gamer, Max Ketchum. How you doing, man?
Yo, what's going on, guys? Super happy to be here, man. Some of my longest time friends in the scene, especially Marcus, who I've known for literally half of my life. But Tweek and Chuck, of course, we met like as soon as we could, right?
Yeah. I remember you came down for a Hawaii event, like one of the first Smash 4 Hawaii events a while back. Man, that had to have been like 2016.
I think it was 2015. It was the same weekend as Big House 5, the one, the one with the big upset.
Yeah. All right. Well, and that was a really good time. So that was really fun. We got to hang out in Hawaii for a while. So good times, man. Good times. And man, that's been a while ago. That's like 8 years now. Holy moly.
I know, man. I can't believe it.
Wait,
I've
were you
known
on
Max
the team?
for so fucking
More
long.
than half your life, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Max said to Marcus, I should probably say to Max. Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
Max swiftly defeated me in a Smash 4 tournament.
Swiftly.
Hooked.
It was all skill and fundamentals, bro. When I, down aired you at 20%. Also, I see we. Oh, sorry.
Did the junior get sauced?
It did, but he got me back the next time we played.
Oh, okay.
Did I?
Oh, wow, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, you did at my invitational, the final Smash Attack. So we go to the grave 1-1 in sets.
I didn't know we played again.
Oh no.
Yeah, we did, and you kind of cooked me.
Dang, you hit him with the reality check.
That might be my only Captain Falcon loss ever in tournament.
Wow.
Damn, yo, I'm goated.
What?
Think about it.
Yeah, you don't really lose the Falcon. I can't remember at least.
You never lost a fatality ever? Holy shit, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, it's very clear who the best Falcon is then, right?
Yeah, I mean, I also did famously defeat Fatality in a $100 money match at Evo.
Oh, I remember that. I was there.
Yep.
That was that 2015 or 16? No, 16.
2015. It was just a couple months before I went to Hawaii.
Oh, that's right. Oh my goodness.
I also almost beat Void there, and then
I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to.
Hey, I'll bring it up. All right. It was one of the best almost accomplishments of my life, man. I was about to 2-0 him, and I was twitching because I was so cold and didn't sleep, and also somebody stole my controller, so I jumped off the stage, or I jumped from near center stage on Smashville and did a reverse side B with Falcon and killed myself at 10, and then he got me game 3.
No, you got stretchered game 3.
Game 3, I got stretchered. Yeah, well, he got me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. I'm very surprised you didn't bring up you brought up other stuff, but you didn't bring up the stretcher.
Yeah, well, know the stage, right? And I guess I kind of picked it.
And then I remember for the rest of Smash 4, you were like, "Yeah, we gotta ban Town and City," and I would just think, dude, is it the set with Void? Is that why I want to ban Town and City?
That was a piece of the puzzle for sure. That was part of it, but no, not the only reason. I just don't like stages that can kill you.
That is fair.
Yeah.
That is fair. It is a dynamic stage.
One of my favorite things, this really applies to Max and Charles, just Smash casters. The reason I love listening to y'all commentate and whatnot is just you can see how much y'all love Smash, just anything Smash related, and it just shows when y'all talk about the game or commentating a set, and that's really all you need to get the ball rolling when it comes to something like that. Like even just now, we've been here for like 5 minutes, and it's just so fun to just talk about like all the Smash experiences we've had, and with me and Max, like me and Max will talk about like probably like me brawlers sword or me brawlers like frame data, and it would probably last like an hour, and it end up being fun or something. Like I feel like I like talking about Smash in those weird like tunnel vision specific ways, and like that's why like having you two around specifically is like such a blast.
Yeah, thanks, man. We're some fucking nerds, you know. It's no
Yeah.
secret, right?
That's the simple explanation for what I just said.
I think casters that also put their all in competing for a long time, it also really shows. This is no way am I like taking shots at the newer commentators and stuff, but there is something special about someone that has gone through the previous games and literally put everything into it as a competitor, with whether they're successful or not. And, maybe they have some handful of success here and there, but maybe they didn't necessarily become like a top 5 or top 10 player. They were there for the competition and they put everything. Like I've raged, I've cried over sets, obviously I was a lot younger, but it's so much easier to relate to the competitor and cast and talk about it. Like what gets people frustrated while competing, what makes people happy, how the player's thinking, what the thought process is for counter picking, all these other things that really you can only get that insider POV if you've put like your heart and soul into competing in the game, right? And I think that's something like me, Max has, and like a bunch of other commentators can relate to. A lot of the top commentators have at one point in time competed at one of the Smash titles very seriously, right?
I think all of them, right? EE, Coney, TK,
yep.
like y'all, like you all have, and
it really just shows too. Like I feel like it makes you want to dive deeper into the game. Like they sound like they're having so much fun. Maybe I need to learn me brawlers fucking frame data. Maybe there's a reason for it. You know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of fun listening to y'all cast the game, and it's been like multiple titles now, so it's just interesting to. It's been a long road.
It really has, man. I feel like having that insider perspective, like it kind of powers you up on the mic because you like know what they're thinking and feeling, right? And then being able to put that into words, it definitely does tell that story to the viewer, right? Where it's like, yeah, like they're not just having like a close set with impressive gameplay, like their lives are on the line, at least in this very moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like, I'm sure casting for y'all after competing, like you access a different part of your Smash brain. You like learn, differently, or it kind of gives you new strengths and abilities that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And that reminds me of when I started doing Metafy coaching. Like, it helped me a lot as a person and even a player. I think like verbalizing concepts that would otherwise just be in my head, or maybe an occasional conversation with like one of you three or something. And it really gave me a new perspective. And at first I didn't want to do it because I like was so rigid in my thought process of like, oh, I'm a player, I'm not a coach, I'm not like blah blah blah, like kind of like scared and like didn't think I could do it and didn't want to waste anyone's time. But the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it and actually thought I was really good at it. And like I said, helped like verbalizing these things like helped me improve. Like sometimes I'll be saying something, I'm like, oh, like this could apply to myself, and like this advice I'm giving, like maybe I could do this in X or Y situation. I feel like I'm curious like if that is similar when y'all started casting and stuff, and all the routes that took your Smash brain.
No, I would say for sure, like teaching is learning, which is one of my favorite quotes, right?
Yes.
So the more you just reiterate even these concepts that you've understood for years and years,
Yeah.
it never hurts to have a refresher. Like one thing, especially when I'm actively competing, I always find myself kind of missing how I approach the game at first, right? Like early Smash 4, for example. I feel like, a year or two down the line, I'm like, wow, I forgot so many of the basics that I feel like made me a good player. And then revisiting that or watching old VODs or something, or even just having like a good conversation, like how you've said, we've had so many like multiple hour-long conversations about just the most random shit in Smash. But sometimes it takes you back and something just clicks again that you may have forgotten, or like it slipped your mind over the years, and then you can bring that back.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one thing that I even try to do nowadays is compete now, even though, I definitely don't put as much time into the game as I did before, but I always want to have the freshest perspective, right? And I've never really played too much tournament with like Fighter Pass 2 meta and stuff. And so I mean, I go out there, I compete when I can in tournaments. Competing and commentating, it takes a lot of energy to commentate. That's one thing I feel like a lot of people don't realize. It's very high. It just takes a lot of energy, and competing also takes a lot of energy. So mixing the two is not too great, but I'll try to go out to locals here and there, MSM zeros here and there, and I'll compete at some of the majors. I've competed here and there as well. Collision was a tournament I didn't commentate. I just went to hang out with homies and I competed. And yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. Obviously Fighter Pass 2 has some very overtuned things, probably some of the most overtuned things I've ever seen in the history of Smash Brothers. But even just putting myself out there, just so I can go through the frustration, I can understand what these players are competing against. And there's even times where I remember one time I was just walking with Gavin, I looked at him, I'm like, I'm really proud of you, Gavin. Like, the shit you have to fight. Like,
just for showing up, he was saying.
Yeah, like the fact that you do this, I have so much respect, because I don't mind putting myself out there. I don't mind going 0-2 at a tournament. I think I went 0-2 at Collision. Like, I got fucked up by Robin Akasia. Like, it's whatever to me. It's I want to experience it and know what I'm talking about. And obviously I study the game a lot, so I'm going to know what I talk about. But it's a whole nother thing is if you competed through the game and if you try to compete and understand that, even Ultimate has a bunch of different phases too, right? So I think that's really, really important to go through.
Yeah, I think just as much as commentary can help your ability to play, playing can help your ability to commentate.
Yep. Oh, for sure.
They definitely go hand in hand. Coaching is the same way. Like, I'm like in this weird spot where I'm like half player and half coach, half like I don't know.
I was thinking that while we were talking, I was thinking of your perspective as well.
And there are a lot of times where like I'm talking to someone, doing like a Metafy lesson with them, and I like explain this like concept that seems so simple to me, right? Like, to me, it's just like I've been doing this forever, like, and I'm trying to explain it, and I'm like, you get it, right? And they're like, yeah, I kind of get it. And I'm like, I don't get it. How can you not get it, right? Like, because I've gone through like the war of competing and like going like, hey, like, if this situation's happening, like, you might not want to just like blow your read that you saved right here. Like, they still got 3 stocks left. There's 2 more games left potentially. Maybe you want to like keep doing like damage in a different way, right? Like, show them that you kind of have an idea, but you might not have like the strongest punish for it, right? And they're like, but why would you not just get the most damage you can? And I'm like, because like when you play, like, when you start playing and you get to those higher levels, you like understand why it's important, but it's like you have to play first. And I think a lot of times when I'm listening to like the best commentators, and I didn't include like Vicky or Bam either, anything like that, and I apologize, but when I'm listening to them, like, I know for sure that they've gone to war. Like, I'm like, y'all have been doing battle. You've been in that moment where it's game 5, last stock, last hit, your tournament life is on the line. You think you have a read, you don't pull the trigger. They do the thing you had the read for, and you lose, and your confidence is just shot. You've been there. I can tell they've been there. The commentators can express it perfectly because they know how much it hurts. They're like, oh my, like, he knew, like, he positioned himself for it, or like they go for the read, they barely mistime it, and it's like, like, the people who haven't experienced it, they can't express that emotion. They can't. Like, it's like, oh man, that really sucks. And it's like, yeah, it does really suck, but when you've been there and you've been like, bro, I cannot believe that you missed time. That, like, that hurts so much. Like, it's completely different when you've been through it. So I definitely know how it feels to like activate other parts of my Smash brain, especially because like I talk to you, Gavin, all the time, and I'm like, Gavin, this scenario, like, why do you do this? And you're like, oh, because of this, and I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. And then like, it's always like growing and learning with Smash, and that's what's so interesting. Like, learn about like the game, but you also learn about yourself. And like I was saying yesterday, how like you mentioned on the podcast last week, or maybe it was a bonus episode, I can't remember which one, but that like Spargo and Light. Oh, we were talking about Bloom, so I think that was last week. Where like Bloom is like one of those players with like unshakable confidence, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's very important to have that, but it doesn't mean that your like entire gameplay needs to be just full confident, full blown. I'm gonna do what's right all the time. And actually, what's funny is I brought up you, and I was like, Tweek is very confident in like his neutral and his ability to win neutral over and over, and he believes that he'll figure things out, and he's okay with not taking risks. The unshakable confident players, they don't care to take whatever risk they want. Like
You're not
I'm
going to do
right.
anything to me.
Yeah,
invincible.
I'm invincible. I'm right. But
Light.
you
Yeah.
are like your confidence is very unshakable and you're neutral, and that's what keeps you consistent, right? Like, and that's fine. That's like different ways to approach the game.
Yeah.
And I just thought that that was like really interesting that some people like think there's like one way to do things. I'm like, no, like there's so many different ways to play the game, and that's really what makes Smash so interesting, you know.
Yeah, I think like knowing what it feels like to be in that competitor's chair when you're commentating, like it's the gap between sympathy and empathy, right? Because you can see the game, you know, you can understand the game on such a deep level as someone who hasn't done that and hasn't been there themselves, and you can maybe just miss like subtle things and how that would affect the player's mentality and stuff. But I'd really love to see like EKGs and like neuro scans of players as they play, and even just like you know, long term over the course of a person's career, like what parts of the brain get activated from different things in Smash, whether it's a tournament set or a conversation with somebody that, you know, you're talking about Me Brawler's frame data, to use that example again. Because I think like one of the coolest things about Smash is how many avenues there are, right? Like you don't have to just be a player to show your brilliance in this community. You could be a caster, you could be a TO, you could be an artist, you could even be like a modder, right? Like somebody who makes like skins or even like gameplay mods and shit like that. So I think there's just so many outlets for your creativity and your brain power to shine through in this community. And I'd really love to see like how that all develops over time and kind of like what parts of the brain everyone is thinking with and like what's lighting up on those scans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Marcus mentioning like how much goes into Smash specifically when it's a best of 3 or best of 5 scenario is so interesting. And like storing reads and like, you know, gauging the risk reward and the pacing of the match around that. And like, cause that's something I like practice and focus on a lot and try to execute a lot when I play. Is I actually talked about this on a stream yesterday, like talking about a lot of the psychological things and like, you know, trying to win in a best of 3 or best of 5 before they can even realize what's happening, so they have no chance to adapt. Like that kind of thing is something I actually rely on pretty heavily, and I actually kind of connected into like maybe that's why like I get reverse 3-0'd or almost get reverse 3-0'd a lot, because like, you know, you're really trying to gauge like when to do certain things, and like sometimes you might be a little too quick or something. Like it's so interesting to think about because as a player, like I be gimmicking people all the time. Like I be hitting people with like, or I try to hit people with stuff that like I think they've probably never seen before. And it's like, oh, now your stock's gone, game's over. Like, too bad. Like, you weren't ready for this random thing. Like, so it's so interesting that like, you know, it's not like you can just say like, let's keep playing. It's like, no, if that was the last game, that's the last game. Like,
GG's.
you got to make
Right.
it back to me somehow in bracket or something.
It's like almost like a macro game, you know, because obviously Smash, I feel like when you look at Smash on a surface level, it's all micro, right? It's like all inputs. It's all like there's not like a StarCraft sense of thing where there's an economy, or like Valorant where there's an economy with guns and all this other stuff, right? But to me, the macro in Smash comes with the information war, right? When you're cashing out on certain reads, like Pink was saying, like, oh, maybe this game you're already down 2 stocks. Don't use that roll read for a stock right now. It doesn't matter, right? Why are you're that cash out is so inefficient. There's no value to that, right? Save it for the next game. Save it for, you know, game 4 when you need it to push into game 5. Maybe save it for the lead, the first stock of game 5, because the matchup you're playing is so reliant on the lead that if you get the lead, you win 80% of the time. Stuff like that, right? So even in a game where there's no defiant macro game, I feel like there is, just because of the information war going on in just fighting games in general, right?
Yeah, I think one of the things that people miss when they don't attend live tournaments is that human to human meta. Like my best friend from high school, Tony, shout out to Tony if you ever watch this. He's been playing with me for like a couple of years since around the beginning of Ultimate, and like he mechanically, mentally, all that stuff, he's very solid, but he is just busy, right? And he doesn't get to go to a lot of tournaments. So when he does go, I feel like he kind of like performs less than his skill because the players he's running into have more in bracket experience where they're kind of more used to conserving that one read for like a defining moment in the game or something like that. And it's something that can only be developed by going and spending that time. Like no one won their first major for a reason, right? Even if you're as talented as say you, Gavin, or like Leo or somebody, you don't just show up and automatically win. You kind of need that field work, right?
Yeah.
And what's super interesting is like you even bringing up the fact that that person doesn't go to tournaments that often. And I've talked to people who like maybe get to go to locals in like my area maybe like twice a year or something like that. And they're like, dude, like if I don't perform well, this is it until the next time I can go 6 months down the road. And they put so much more pressure on themselves. And like that's another thing that you just can't see if you don't sit in the chair yourself. If you're sitting home, you're watching brackets and you haven't been to a single one, and you're like, hey man, I can't believe this person messed up this input in this last hit scenario and like to make top 8. I can't believe it. And it's like you've never been that nervous in a situation to make top 8, thinking like, oh, I win here, it's lit, top 8. All I have to do is do this one thing correctly. The moment you put that thought in your head, it's like, I just gotta do this one thing, and your hands get shaky. You know, you start messing up like stuff you've practiced 2 million times.
And then you press the small red button instead of the gigantic green button, right? Like stuff like that happens a lot because your hands are shaking so much that you go for the button press and it moves over. Like that's how much your hands shake when you're really fucking nervous. And we've all been there. You know, we've all been there in different scales, obviously, but still just that idea. And one thing I can compare that to, even I wasn't commentating this set, but when I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is over. When it was main stage grand finals and Spargo is up 2 stocks to 1 on Leo. If you look at the player cam, there's this gloss in his eyes. Like his face looked like he just in his brain was like, I just beat Leo. I finally won my first major. That was the face on the webcam. And right when I saw that, I was like, oh, you're so fucked. Like there's so many times I've seen that happen to other players, and that's happened to me too. Even like back when I competed a lot in Smash 4. Smash 4 was probably my most active game. And there was so many times where I was like, holy shit, I'm about to beat like a top 20, top 30 player. Right. I was going to beat MVD at Genesis. I was going to beat like Rich Brown at like an MSM. That's not like too big. But at Genesis against MVD, he went like Luigi game 2 and I won game 1. And I knew the Luigi matchup because of Dark Musician playing like a pocket Luigi. It was a good matchup versus Fox. And I was up an entire stock. And I was in my brain, I was like, holy shit, I just beat MVD. And you know what's crazy? All my friends were like, oh yeah, we think you're going to beat him. Like they told me that because they were that confident that that's how good I was. So there's like so much other things outside the game reinforcing my thought process, right? And think about if you're Spargo in that situation, like so much people are like, oh yeah, you're like due for your major win. Like, and this is before Spargo won his first major being Summit 4. So, you know, there's so much things racing in his brain. And in that moment, it was just like, yeah, I got this. Like I win, right? And once you think that, it's over. GG's, you're gonna throw. I've seen that happen 99% of the time. So, you know, I've been there. I've seen so much of my friends been there, and this is another scenario for Spargo that once I saw that, and that's the kind of stuff that we're talking about. You need to have experience to understand those moments, right? And this is exactly that. So. Yeah. Surprise! I didn't beat MVD. I ran off the stage at 0. Okay, for some reason I was like, oh, I win. And usually when you think that, guess what is the first thing that you're instinctively gonna do? Oh, I win already. I need to take the stock, right? I'm at 0% with Fox, and he's at like 100 plus. All I need to do is ledge trap, and I win the game. Eventually, back air, something will happen, right? I'm like, I should go for a fair footstool. And I didn't even like really think that. I just was thinking about winning, and I just run off the stage and go for a fair. I missed because I didn't go for it the entire set. Kind of a justification. Still horrible play. And MVD snaps the ledge. He doesn't even know how to match with Luigi. He literally ledge drops, presses down B, and trades with my Firefox, and I die 0.
Oh, that's brutal, bro.
And then I lose last stock game 3. And I cried. But yeah, so that I have been there, right? Like all of us have, right? And like I said, there's different scales to it. Obviously, being in grands of a tournament is a whole. Being in that situation in grand finals of a tournament against the best player in the world is way different than my scenario at Genesis. But it's like different levels of that similar situation, right? That we've all been there for. So
Yeah. And like, you know, you lose sight of the forest through the trees or whatever the saying is, right? You start thinking about like the tweet, the pop off, the like,
Yup.
you know, the celebration with your boys, how good it would look.
Mhm.
But it's like, bro, all you got to do is actually just focus on the screen in front of you and nothing else. Like,
living in the present, right? Just like getting the job done.
Yeah.
It's not over yet. There's so much other things. And this is, by the way, this is when I lived in Hawaii. So I traveled out from Hawaii. I don't have that much resources in terms of like Void already moved out of Hawaii. So I was currently the best player in Hawaii at the time, but I just don't have that much resources. So a player from Hawaii getting a win like that is fucking insane, by the way, because you're not grinding in Tri-State. You're not grinding in SoCal. I don't have that kind of resources. So yeah, it would have been crazy, but you know, it is what it is. And that's the crazy part about tournaments. It's the whole mental aspect is it's like the entire part. It feels like 80% of the warfare, right? Because the other part of tournament is just grinding so much to the point where everything's muscle memory. So you don't even have to focus on that. And then you can just focus on the mental.
Yeah, I feel like being in the competitive setting is like a muscle of its own that you have to learn how to, you know, master and control and work on and stuff. Like I've recently been competing again in HDR, and I've entered, you know, a couple tournaments over like the past month and a half or so. But my first few, I definitely felt like that nervousness. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh man, you know, I've been around for a long time. Like, how bad would it look, or how bad would it feel to lose to this guy, or how good would it feel to beat this guy? Stuff like that. And then, you know, I've definitely felt like over the next couple weeks and the more brackets I've entered, kind of those nerves calming down again, even though like I've literally been competing in Smash for fucking like almost 16 years. So
Yep.
like it does kind of wear down over time. Like eventually you'll get back into the swing of things, but you do have to put yourself in that environment, practice under pressure, and then it'll start to, you know, come back to you and you can conquer that.
Hey, Tweek Talk fans, you know what it is. It's sponsorship time, and we're happy to say that today's episode is brought to you by Honey, the easy way to save when shopping on your iPhone or your computer. Now, personally, I love finding deals when shopping online. It makes me feel savvy and smart with my decisions, especially when the deals are a surprise. There's nothing like feeling a little lucky when shopping online and finding good deals. Thanks to Honey, manually searching for coupon codes is a thing of the past. Honey is the free shopping tool that scours the internet for promo codes and applies the best one it finds to your cart. Now imagine you're shopping on one of your favorite sites. When you go to checkout, the Honey button appears and all you have to do is click apply coupons. Wait a few seconds as Honey does its work and searches for coupons it can find for that site. And if Honey finds a working coupon, you'll watch the prices drop. Now, this year, one of my resolutions is to get more into working out. I've been good about the treadmill, but I want to start pumping some weights, right? So I was looking for a new blender, right? I was trying to buy a new blender online. And when I went to go check out, I clicked on my Honey widget and I was able to find a deal and actually save $20 on a really nice blender. Now, this was surprising because it's a really high quality blender. Saving $20 on it was super awesome. And I got to thank Honey for that one. Now, one last thing. Did you know Honey doesn't just work on desktops, it also works on your iPhone too. Just activate it on Safari in your phone and save on the go. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out. And by getting it, you'll be doing yourself a solid in supporting this show. Get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/tweek. Again, that's joinhoney.com/tweek. joinhoney.com/TWEEK. Tweek.
It reminds me of what Charles was saying about like just showing up and like how respectable that is. Like when you're playing with someone, like just when you're competing in Smash, like two people, like, you know, for lack of a better word, like putting their lives on the line, like, and just playing it out, like that's nothing, like it's beautiful, literally. Like, and I was thinking about that the other day, like some of these players I've been playing against, it's been across multiple games, like sometimes like dozens of like big stages across the world, like, and like that creates like a lifelong bond, like whether you want it to or not. Like I have a connection to some of these players that like it's just like spiritual or something, you know what I mean? Like you just can't, there's no other way to create something like that with someone, like just like Marcus was saying, like just going to war. You know what I mean? Like when I see like someone like Leo at a tournament or something, it's like we don't even have to like say words to each other. Like it's just like
A simple
yeah,
head nod, you know.
like, yeah, that's my boy. Like I fought him 3 million times to
Dude,
the death.
I still remember there was one moment at Shine 2018 where you and Leo were in top 8 and I was backstage emceeing, and there was like that whole drama with like, you know, the safety in the venue and shit, and we were all just kind of waiting. But I'm just laying on the floor because I'm an old ass man with a bad back, and you and Leo were both like standing on opposite sides of me, and you guys were like, you know, kind of having that stare down. We're like, yeah, we're about to play, and like there's high stakes because this game's about to end. I forget exactly what it was, but I had asked some provocative question, and he was just like, yeah, I'm the best or some shit. And you were like, like, fuck you, Leo, you know? It was so good, man. It's priceless moments, man.
Yeah. Like I said, like especially if it's across multiple games or like many like playing against someone many times or like multiple years, like it's just it creates something that just can't be replicated. It's crazy. Like when I see like, you know, even like some of the people that I've only played in Ultimate, like Spargo, like this person's like he's like a fucking teenager, but it's like, yeah, we've just like battled to the death multiple times already. Like at one point we played like a bunch in a very small period of time, and it's like it creates this respect, at least from me, to those people that like it's just, there's just nothing else like it. It's a crazy experience, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of what you were saying, Max, about how you've been around so long that you've like seen players like improve or change, and like, you know, what types of things get certain reactions out of them and stuff like that, and how interesting that is. And like a lot of the way I look at the game revolves around that too. Like, you know, asking myself questions about like, you know, why do I do this? Why do I react this way? Or like studying my opponents like psychologically. It's just, you know, to give myself an advantage, but also just because it's interesting. Like competition is just interesting like that.
Yeah, so much psychology is at play.
Yeah. And like some of these people like, you know, literally started competing in Smash like at a super young age and like grew up in the community and became like an adult playing the game. And it's like, it's just, time just makes things even more interesting. And I think that's something about Melee too. It's like this Melee has like a lifelong history of like players and gameplay and tier lists and like technical execution. It's like it creates stories just through existing like for so many years.
Yeah,
And it's cool when like the Brawl Smash 4 Ultimate community gets its own versions of that, just because we're starting to get at a point where we've just been around forever.
We've seen so many different changes, and that's one thing I love about our community as well. I mean, it's very similar with Melee. It's just there's so many different generations that feel like they're passing the torch on. You know what I mean? And even for people like Max, even though we don't compete as much nowadays, we still try to coach players that are part of the next generation, and they pass on that like their viewpoint on Smash. And one of the big reasons why, you know, Tweek and Void are my two favorite players to watch is because I was a big part of how they learned how to play Smash, right? And it's not just for me. Obviously, they've learned from a bunch of different people as well. But it's kind of like you're getting bits and pieces of everyone's point of view of Smash, and then we're also like taking like I've had sessions with Tweek and Void being like, oh hey, like remember in Brawl you did this. Like you can kind of apply that same mentality or same ideology to this situation here and do this. And remember in Smash 4 you could do this. I remember like Summit 3 when Gavin was playing, it was kind of just like, oh hey dude, I think you need to just tone it down and play more Smash 4 Diddy. Just keep it simple, play some Smash 4 Diddy. Sometimes you can have flares of Ultimate Diddy, but like right now you just got to keep it simple and stuff like things like that, and keep on passing the torch of information. And now information's so public, people get so good at this game so fast. And I think Max, Pink, and Tweek can attest to this. How much effort you have to put into the game to be a top 50 player in Brawl, Smash 4, and now Ultimate, it has scaled a lot. It's insane how much effort you have to put in. And a big part of it is like Twitter and information being more public. And on top of that, we just have multiple generations of people that have played Smash and they're passing down that information via content or coaching and stuff like that. So that to me is such a cool concept of just passing on the torch, and that's why I always kind of root for the old school players, right? Like they're keeping it going, right? Larry's one of the Brawl vets that keep it going, and even the players that came up in Smash 4, because to me the Smash 4 generation is really special to me because it was the transition from grassroots to esports, and on top of that, a lot of the Brawl vets help teach the Smash 4 vets now, right? So that is a big reason why it's like, you know, any Smash 4 vet, it has a very special place in my heart. And it's cool to see even the new generation come up. You know what I mean? I have my preference, obviously, but like Acola is coming out of nowhere and just like fucking people up with Steve. And that's the new generation with the new set of characters, right? And, you know, it's going to keep on going. And it's really fun to see the different clashes of all the different generations and their viewpoints on Smash. And even Ultimate, like, as much as I complain about Fighter Pass 2, it does bring in a bunch of different aspects of the game that we kind of have to like collide and figure out, right?
You know, it's super cool because you mentioned like passing out information. I think about my local scene like immediately when you say that. And it's funny because most of the people who got good during Smash 4 were taught by people who play Brawl. So like at the beginning of Smash 4 for my local scene, the strongest players were like me, Seagull, Joe, Boss, and Neo, who played Melee, but it was like us four, right? And we were teaching the Smash 4 people how to play Smash. And eventually, the two strongest players from my region ended up being ZD and Dexter, who you may see at almost every single Xanadu Grand Finals. Like they play each other all. They have like 300 sets or something like that. It was ridiculous. Yeah, they play each other a lot, and that's just an Ultimate, not including Smash 4. It's crazy. But they're like the way they think about the game is much more like partially Smash 4, but mostly Brawl based, right? And then we start playing Ultimate, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking around. I'm like, why does everyone in my region play Ultimate like it's Brawl? Like, what's going on? Like, it's like really slow. Like, everybody who comes here, they're like, dude, your region is so campy. I'm like, I know, it's ridiculous. But they take it really slow, very defensive. Like, they'll take their hits where they can get them. And I'm sitting there like, this can't be real. But now we have Enhanced PV as like our best player. He's been number one for like the last 2 seasons or something like that. And bro plays Ultimate. Like you can tell bro plays Ultimate. He's just swinging, plays Cloud, just back air, cross / forward air, not a care in the world about like what may happen. He's just like, bro, I'm just a kid playing some Ultimate. You'll be like back air, spot dodge, cross / 1-2 spot dodge up B. I'm like what is that, man? Like
none of those words are in the Bible.
Yeah. it's like you can see the Ultimate, and that he didn't necessarily get his information from like the Brawl vets or the Smash 4 vets. He learned from Wi-Fi. He just learned from Wi-Fi. He played some Ultimate Wi-Fi, and bro's just the best player in the region. And I know moving forward, when people learn, they're going to want to learn from him. So now we're going to start having
significant change happens in a region. Like when the Wi-Fi player steps in, it's like, hey, I play the game like this.
Like, bro, it's just like there's no way this person believed that was correct, and like it seemed to be correct because they're cooking everybody. Like, So it's like really cool to see like generations of Smash. Like you could just see the differences in their gameplay.
When I first got into Smash, like I was the Wi-Fi person coming in, like, and I had a couple like different experiences that were all like very different. Like if I think of someone like Max was like very welcoming, like always willing to help out, was really interested in my playstyle, just excited about Smash in general, and like, you know, hyped me up, like all this stuff. Like I thought I was so fucking good at the game, blah blah blah, like inviting me to these tournaments and stuff.
Max was right.
Well, now that you
I know talent when I see it, baby.
And then like that's like a Brawl vet, like being really like just like super open to passing the torch, you know what I mean? And also just likes the game and wants to compete himself. But it reminds me of, you know, I also had the opposite experiences, but were helpful in the same way, where like Brawl vets that are super rigid in their ways, and like like when I beat them or play with them, they don't accept it. Like, nope, like you're not actually good, blah blah blah. Like sometimes like I would have people like legit like outside of the venue telling me, hey, someone's gonna be better than you with X character, like, you know, like you have to be ready for that. Like, you're not as good as you think. Like, people would just straight up tell 16-year-old me this to my face. But
That's happening right
like,
now with Enhance. That happens in my region with
like
Enhance all the time.
People are like super rigid and like closed-minded, and like, but it also kind of tells you that maybe you're on the right track, and like maybe you're hitting them where it hurts. You know what I mean? When it comes to competition, and maybe you have potential to take it farther than you think. But yeah, it's so interesting how, you know, people react to change in Smash. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of my like highest IQ reads long term in Smash was probably like in the first few months of Smash 4. I either tweeted it or I just like said it on Facebook or something, or like I don't know where it was conveyed, but I said the best player at the end of this game is not going to be a Brawl vet. It's going to be someone who started fresh with Smash 4, or at least, you know, in terms of going to tournaments actively, where they don't have any like preconceived notions about how the game is supposed to be played. They're just approaching it from an entirely new and fresh mindset. And then look who we got at the end of Smash 4. It was you and Leo, right? Two players who definitely played Brawl and were good at Brawl, like mechanically, and, you know, played online or at locals and stuff. But you guys weren't like national figures or anything in that game. And then by the end, you were the best. And now in Ultimate, I think players like Spargo, Acola, like guys like that, they're rising to the top because they do also have this fresh approach to the game. And also just going back to like investment in players, like rises to the top. Charles, you said Gavin and Void. For me, it's Gavin and Leo. Like, you know, I was at that Smash Factor where Leo first beat Mr. R, and I was like, yo, this believer. Kid,
yeah.
he's the truth. And people are like, yeah, top 30 maybe. I'm like, all right, we'll see. And then, yeah, like even from, you know, very early Smash 4 locals, it was very obvious that Gavin was going to be one of the best. Like, fucking people up with Bowser Jr. Like, I'm sorry, that's a generational talent right there. So,
that
you know,
character was dog shit. If you haven't played Smash 4, he was really, really bad, and Tweek would beat people with Bowser Jr. I remember I rejoiced the day that I found out that Tweek was like going to tournaments with Cloud. I was like, holy shit, he's gonna be a character. Like,
I was there at that one rescue. I think it was the first tourney after Cloud came out.
What the?
Yep, you won.
It's like down the street from my dad's house.
And everybody was like, what? It's a fluke.
I was like, yeah, he's playing a good character, which he fucked you guys up with Bowser Jr. What do you think is going to happen when he plays Cloud? And the crazy thing back then is a lot of people didn't think Cloud was good. Japan thought Cloud was good.
I thought that was so crazy.
That was wild. I was like, look at these hitboxes, dude.
I literally told them, and they would just straight up say, no. Like, I was telling them things I was finding that were true combos. And they were just like, nah.
Yeah. It's funny. It really does take somebody to just like show you the whole thing in practice, all put together, right? Because everyone has their ideas of what the game looks like on paper. We don't play Smash on paper. We play on a human-to-human level on monitors with controllers that can malfunction, and, you know, like a fly could land on you in the middle of a match and fuck up your combo or something. Like, there's so many factors.
Like, because maybe we don't have enough space, right? There is a lot of factors.
It reminds me a lot.
There could be a concert playing.
Did you see that tweet the other day of the people they're playing? Like, I think it was winners finals, maybe it was grands. I think it was winners finals though. And there's like it's at like an arcade, and some dude is in the background shooting like shooting the basketball, and he misses, and it flies out, and it just hits the dude in his face while he's playing winners finals. Like stuff like that happens at events. It's crazy. I couldn't believe it happened, but I was like, bro, no way. Bro turned around like, what? Like,
if that happens to my opponent, you know, just kind of sneak in a forward smash, you know what I'm saying?
No remorse.
Yeah.
Oh snap, I didn't know
those.
that you were distracted. Sorry.
Have you guys ever noticed someone scratching their nose or like taking their hand off the controller, and you know that they can't like do certain options, or you know that they're just going to shield, so you go for a grab and stuff like that?
Yep.
See,
the fake mashing too.
Yes, yeah, fake mashing.
You got to be ready for all of the tricks.
Or the pump fake. Like, dude, Tyrant does this so much where he'll pump fake. Yeah, he'll pump fake when he like makes you think he's going for air dodge, so he'll condition you, right? So he'll be like, and then like air dodge, or like he'll do this when he goes for a swing, and then later on in the set he'll do that like with a very wide body motion, and then like not swing and then hit you, and he's just like, I got to do everything I can. Like,
bro, the best one for that is getting off the ledge.
Yep.
Where you're on the ledge, your invincibility's running out, like immediately, you know, you go for the early pump fake, but then you stay on the ledge and then they whiff and then you hit them.
Yeah.
Old school grime strats, man. I hope those stay alive. That's why we got to keep passing the torch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. See, that's passing of the torch. There you go.
I feel like I had the same experiences with, like, you were mentioning Spargo and Acola really like coming in with like the like ultimate brain, at least for the most, like as the forefront of their gameplay. You know, if Leo is like Smash 4 brain or something. And my first couple losses to like those two specifically, like it's like, you know, that hurts the ego pretty bad. Like it's hard to accept like this is the top of Ultimate right now. Like it's not you know what I mean? And like it took me more losses than it probably should have to like think of them as like the champion battle. You know what I mean? Like this is for everything rather than like Leo or something. Like obviously Leo is still part of that, but these two need to be included now, not like a year from now. They are the present.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like the first couple losses to those two, like it's definitely like attacks the ego and like attacks what you think is Smash Bros as well. And I feel like I'm constantly battling that, even when it's not like against the best players in the world. Like, you know, getting tilted at something in Ultimate that is like that I think is stupid or like not correct, and like I have to reevaluate myself once in a while just to like, you know, focus on my anger or my tilt and really like, because if you want to keep competing, you can't be 2 years in the past or 5 years in the past. You know what I mean? So it's interesting that like as a teenager, like I was the person that was just, this is just what I know. I'm like just experiencing something new and like formulating from there. And now I'm the old man that disagrees with all the new kids.
It's
Hey,
a full cycle, right?
Welcome.
Yeah.
Cloud Bale
Yeah.
player that was just fucking everyone up, and everyone's just like, dude, Bale and Cloud are so fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm like,
hey
no,
man, you
what
can
are you
always
talking
become a
about?
commentator.
Yeah, I was about to say like I fully completed the cycle, but there's probably a couple things I still need to do to fully complete it.
Yeah. No,
Doing
there's
the
always going to be
podcast
that.
is the next step, you know.
Yeah.
Content, and now I gotta get on the mic with one of y'all.
Yo, facts. Let's make big moves. Let's make it happen, bro.
Yeah.
There you
Or
go.
Miami.
Wait,
Try to greatest,
game?
baby.
He's gonna be like, no, I'm trying to win.
Always, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that-
remember. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that changing of the guard is always gonna be there, you know. Like I experienced it with you, Gavin, even on a 1-to-1 level, right? Like the first time we played, like, you know, you were the contender. I was like not necessarily the defending champion, but like, you know, the old guard, right?
Yeah.
And then the second time we meet, it's a totally different story, right? So it's definitely cool to watch it happen, though. It's kind of just the life cycle of Smash, and it feels good at the end of the day knowing it's going to be in good hands. And then also, like,
Yeah.
I want to say I felt like really inspired by how you kind of like picked up after the like post-quarantine slump that you entered. You know, like you really came back strong, and you're like, yo, even though I've been here for years, like I can still do it. I can still innovate and keep up with these new kids and shit. And that, like, in my new like month and a half old revitalized competitor arc, that's inspired me to be like, you know, you can teach an old dog new tricks. Like I'm still gonna keep it pushing. Like being the oldest guy in the venue and winning the tournament feels so fucking good. Stuff like that. So props to you for reigniting that fire in me now 2 times over the course of my Smash career.
It's a hard hump to get over, right? Like the whole, because, you know, I've seen so many players go through that where it's like, okay, boom, you're at the top of the last game, you're at the top of the new game for like the first year or two, and then that hump happens, right? Like all the new players catch up, and then they overthrow the old guard, and for the old guard to fight back, that hasn't happened too often. So, I mean, like, shout outs to you, Leo, and all the other like veterans fighting the good fight, man. It's really hard.
We talk about this on the show all the time, that like Smash is in good hands when someone like Leo is the face of it. Like just like a straight up competitor, like just calm and collected and nice guy. Like stuff like that is always nice, because believe it or not, Leo wasn't always the face of Smash, and like things just change. So you never know what's going to happen. Like, and even for myself, like I was so used to being the new person. It's like all of a sudden you wake up one day and you realize that like things are completely different. And you've been around for 5 years. You know what I mean? It's crazy. And like Max said, like at one point, like in Ultimate, like there's been a lot of ups and downs. I've played a lot of different characters, and like, you know, DLC coming on, like sometimes like during that hump, you eventually just have to like put the like fighting gear back on or whatever and just go back out there, like dust yourself off, and, you know, either try something new or try to keep up, or you're just going to get left in the dust. You know what I mean? Like, and that decision is very difficult to actually get up and go back in there, especially if you're winning for many years, or if you're dealing with a slump for a few years or something. Like, I always, like, when I talk about picking up Diddy over like the COVID like quarantine, like it was such a big risk, but I also like it was such a nice change of pace and mindset. And like, you know, I dedicated myself to a lot of things that I otherwise wouldn't have, just because before I was going to a tournament every week, and I was kind of just like fighting with what I got, and I didn't have time to like assess myself or like pick a new character or like change things. So like it kind of helped a lot. Like it's like I had a fresh new book of game plans and characters and all that. And like, it was a really nice, like, way to, you know, focus on something that I otherwise wouldn't have. Cause I would just go to the next tournament and just wing it. Oh, you're playing the person you lost to last month. Like, do it again. Like, and I had no idea what the next plan was, cause like tournaments were so rapid. So it really changed a lot for me.
Yeah, I
you
think
talked
like
about it a lot at
Sorry,
Summit 3, right?
What's up?
Just like you talked a lot about it at Summit 3
Yeah,
after you
yeah.
won, like how it was the mental reset.
That was like my second tournament after. So like, it was a brand new video game. I mean, it honestly was, like, patches and DLC.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Ultimate was literally just a different game.
Everyone was playing different characters and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like struggle breeds innovation too, right? It's like you get complacent when you're at the top and you continue to win over and over again. It's like if no one's pushing you, then you're not going to change up things that might be getting a little stale in your game plan. Meanwhile, say like Spargo, for example, he's ripping all your VODs off YouTube. He's watching them on the plane. You know, he's hungry. And then it's going to take like probably more than one time losing to him to be like, oh, wait, like, hold on, this guy's catching up. And now I have to hit the drawing board again. And then, you know, that cycle just keeps continuing. So it's one of the most beautiful things about competition in general, like not even just Smash, but all forms of it, right? And yeah, I just love seeing how the old guard and the new can mix and learn from each other. And yeah, it's just so beautiful, man. Competition's a beautiful thing.
All right, so we're going to be recording a bonus segment with our guest, Max. So make sure you guys check out the Patreon. You can check that out for our $10 tier, I believe. So just go ahead and check that out. We will be going over a tweet that talks about grand final records, and we'll also be talking about some regions. We'll probably rank all the different regions and how strong we feel like they are. So make sure to check that out. All right, guys, that's going to be it for today. But we had a great time with our guest, Max. Max, do you want to do the honors of sign us off?
Of course, man. Thank you guys so much for having me. First of all, I mean, it's just such a pleasure to sit down with some of my longest time homies and peers in the scene. Check out EMG's tournaments. We got Gommel coming up. Let's Make Moves Miami later in the year in October. And yeah, play HDR if you're curious about it. Game's mad fun. I've been full-time sweating that. But yeah, thank you again. And it's been real fun.
All right, peace.
Peace, guys.